Hi everyone, this is my first video, so please bear with me. I'm just wanting to show you how to do the Larksfoot stitch. Now I've got two variations of this. This is the original version. Yeah, Larksfoot stitch, or it's also called the bear claw stitch. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to do this stitch, and then if you want a different version of this stitch, I've also got my own version, and I'll just show you that. So here, and this is my variation of the stitch, which I'll post in another video. So this one, I'm going to show you how to do the original. Okay, so let's start with the Larksfoot stitch. So what you're going to do is the Larksfoot is done. Chain fours, groups of chain fours plus one. So do 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you keep going like that as long as you want your blanket. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So any number divisible by 4 is how many chains you want to do for as long as you want your blanket. Now, because I'm only doing a sample, I'm only going to do a small 24. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, 20, 24. So that's how long I want my blanket to be, pretending this was a blanket, the world's smallest blanket. Okay, so you got to the end of how long you want it to be, groups of 4, chain 1. So just one extra chain for turning, and that's it. Now, I like to work in these little bumps at the back of the chain, but a lot of people like to work into these little loops. Doesn't matter, whatever you prefer. So I'm not going to show you how to do DC stitches. I'm going to assume that you already know how to do that. So I'm going to DC or double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and DC. So that makes those 3 chains that you skipped your first DC. You just make your second DC. You want to DC into the next chain. So there you go. 3 DCs. 1, 2, 3. Chain 1. Skip the next chain. DC into the next one. 1, 2, 3. Chain 1. Skip the next chain. DC in the next one. 1, 2, 3. So 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1, 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1. And you're going to continue this pattern the whole way, all the way down all your chains that you've made. So the length of your blanket. So chain 1, skip 1. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 1, whoops, 1, 2, 3. It's harder doing this on record. I'm going to keep making stuff up. Chain 1, and then skip 1, 1, 2, 3. 3 more left. I always get nervous at the end that I haven't calculated my chains right, but it looks like I have. 2, and then I like to just tuck my tail in the last stitch. So last DC, tuck my tail in, and then pull my tail. And it makes it all nice, and you don't have to do that. It's just a weird little quirk that I like to do, and then I like to sew this in after. So you just tucks it in out of the way so it's not flopping all over the place. All right, so you've done that right to the end. So just take the hook off. Okay, so this is what your first row will look like. 3 DCs, chain 1, missed 1, 3 DCs, chain 1, missed 1, all the way across the whole row. So I'm using a Paint Box Simply Chunky yarn for my sample. I love this yarn, and I love this pink. It's bubblegum pink, and I'm using a 4mm hook. Now the yarn actually recommends where is it, a 6mm hook, but I'm being naughty and using a 4mm, so that's probably why I'm making mistakes and spilling the yarn and stuff, but this is all I had at the moment and I just grabbed it. So all right, back to the stitch. So that's your first row. Put your hook back in. Okay, now for the next row, it's gonna look exactly the same as this. So we're gonna copy again. So 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1, 3 DCs. So start with chain 3 and then turn, or some people like to turn and then chain 3. Completely up to you. Just thought I'd show you that. That's just the way I do it. Okay, so that first chain 3, that counts as your first DC. So that's your first DC. I'm going to go into the next top of the next DC and do another DC, second DC, and then go into the top of the third DC and do another DC. 3 DC, 3 DC. Copying the bottom, so chain 1, skip the chain stitch from the previous row, and do a DC into the first DC, 2, 3, chain 1, skip, go on to the next one, 1, 2, 3. See? So exactly the same as what we did for the first row, we're doing in the second row. Just chain 1, skip, 1, 2, made a mistake again, 3, chain 1, skip, 1, 2, 3. You're going to continue this across the whole way till you get to the last one, chain 1, and we're going to do the same here. 1, 2. Now we're at the end. Now this bit's a bit tricky because you want to DC into the 3 chains that you missed at the beginning, so it can be a bit tricky to see where the top is because it gets a bit tight. So I just like to pull it with my finger. There we go. So the hook's in. DC. And that's it. There's your two rows. Exactly the same. 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1, 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1, 3 DCs. Whole way row around 2 rows. Just like that. Now for the next row, this is when we're going to start the long DC. So this is where the Larksfoot actually starts. So we're going to now do these long DCs, and they're going to go over the top of the DCs that we skipped. So you can see it at the top here. We're going to do a long DC over these 2 skip chains, and that's how it creates this Larksfoot stitch, or bear claw, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so back to here. So this time, right at the end, we're actually going to chain 4 this time, because I'll just show you. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, turn. Now the chain 4, the reason why we're going to chain 4, because the chain 4 counts as your first DC plus your chain 1. So this DC and this chain 1 here, that's what you've just made here. So chain 4, skip this stitch and DC into the third DC. So there you go, chain, there's your DC, chain 1, DC. Okay, now we're going to do a long DC. I don't know what the actual name for this is called, but I'm just going to call it a long DC. I don't know if it has a proper name. So all we're going to do is we're going to go in here and around like that. So we're going to skip this chain and go down into the second chain into this gap and do a long DC. So yarn over, put your hook, and if you can see, put your hook in here, around, yarn over, pull it through. Now you want to jiggle your hook until it is back up even with the other loops on your hook, so it's all straight here. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through, just like a normal DC, except you've just done a really long beginning pull-up loop. That's the only difference. Okay, so see that? And then to finish, because you want 3 DCs, 1, 2, last DC into the first DC of the next cluster. So there you go. There's your long DC. Now chain 1, skip the next DC, DC into the third one. Now I'm going to do another long DC, yarn over, into there, pull up the loop and finish the DC. Okay, and there DC to finish that cluster of 3 DCs. Chain 1, DC into the third, another long DC. I just like saying it like that, pull up, so it's even, yarn over, and third DC. Okay, and you just want to keep doing this. Sorry, that's Sweep, he's heard something, so he's running off. I hope he doesn't bark. Kids are both napping, they might wake up any minute too now. Okay, so there we go. Long DCs, okay. So you want to continue this all the way through. Chain 1, DC, long DC, and there's third one. Chain 1, skip the middle DC, DC into the last, long DC into that gap, bring it up, and DC into the third, all the way to the end. Now this is the end here. So what we're going to do is do the same as the beginning here, create this on this side. So chain 1, miss 1, and DC into your turning chain. Again, it's always tricky. So there's a skip 1, and there. Always tricky to do it in the end there. Alright, so there is your first, just take my hook out. There is your first lot of long DCs that make the Larksfoot stitch. It's going to look exactly the same on the other side. See? Now, again, we're going to copy this row. So, we're not going to do the long DC, we're just going to replace that with a normal DC. So now we're going to do 3 DC, chain 1, skip 1, 3 DC, chain 1, skip 1, across again. So I'll show you. So we want to chain 4 again because we're going to do our DC plus our chain 1 in 1 stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn your work. So that was your first DC plus a chain 1. So we skip this. And DC into the first DC. So you've done 1 DC, chain 1. That was your chain 4s, all 1. Hope that makes sense. If not, just copy what I'm doing. Chain 4 and DC into the first DC. Okay, now you want to DC into the top of the long DC of the previous round and DC into the third DC. Perfect. Chain 1, skip your chain 1 from the previous row, and now we're going to DC into these 3. 1 DC into the top of the long DC, and DC into the third. There's your next lot. So it's exactly the same, we're just copying it. Because what's going to happen, these that you're creating here, these gaps are where your next long DC is going to go in the next round. So then you're going to have this V shape of long DCs in your pattern. So 2, 3, chain 1, skip 1, 1, 2, 3, and we're at the end again, remembering this is a chain 4, so there's your chain and your DC. So chain 1, skip 1, make sure you leave a chain there for your gap, and finish with a DC at the top of the chain 3. So there you go, there's that row done. Okay, now this row, like I said, is going to be the long DC row again. So we're going to be putting long DCs in here. Long DCs will be like this. So this is a bit tricky because our first long DC is going to go right into this first gap here. So chain 3, 2, 3, which creates 1 DC. And now you're going to straight away do a long DC into this gap. So yarn over into this gap, pull up your loop all the way, yarn over and finish your DC. So there's your first long DC, and then third DC into the first DC of the previous cluster. So there you go. There's your first long DC. Chain 1, skip the middle one. So we're doing exactly the same as we did for the last long DC round, except it's slightly skewed to the side now. Okay, so chain 1, skip the middle DC, DC into the last. Now we've got another long DC, yarn over, pull it all the way up, finish the DC, and 3. Another one, chain 1, skip 1, DC in here, long DC, finish that, and finish with a third DC. Keep doing this all the way across. 1 DC, a long DC, and DC into the first again. Okay, chain 1, skip 1, DC, long DC, DC into the first DC of the chain 3 cluster at the bottom. Chain 1, now we're getting to the end, DC into there. Now you're going to do the long DC over the end here. Now this can get a bit messy, because what will happen, I'll just show you quickly what happens, this bit can get squashed. So if I was to do it normally and go like this, see the yarn wants to go this side, and then if you were to finish the stitch, it gets all messy like this. So what I do is, you've done your first DC, so just hold the chain out with my other hand, with my yarn hand, and that way it's just going to keep it out of the way so I don't lose my spot. So make a long DC, yarn over, go into the gap, holding it, just hold it and pull it up, and now you can let go, and you've kept it out of the way. Then yarn over, finish it, and there it is. So you can see where you got to go next, and finish with a DC into that chain, and there you go. Your next lot of stitches there is done. And that's Sweep again, walking on the floorboards. He makes click, 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 click with his little claws, and he's growling at something outside. Sorry, it's windy today. Okay. Alright. Now, what we're going to do again is copy this row. So 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1, 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1, 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1, and we'll do that again. Over. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Now the kids are going to wake up, the twins are going to wake up from their nap any second now, so I might have to pause the video and come back to it later. But I'm going to keep going as long as they let me nap. Well, as long as they nap and let me do this. Alright, so let's keep going. Now I just wanted to show you, see if you're a bit fussy like me and see how your stitches get all a bit messed up, crossed over. So all I do is I just go along with my hook and I just, see, you can straighten them out. So just untwist it, make it all nice and pretty. If you're like me, you get annoyed by little things like this. Now I'm sure with use they're probably going to get all twisted again, but it'll look nicer in photos and stuff if they're all flat as well. So see how the bottom row is all twisted? I haven't done them yet. So you can always go through and just untwist them and it'll look all nice and pretty and flat. Alright, so let's continue. So now we've done our row of long DCs. Now we're going to copy exactly across the top. So chain 3, 2, 3, turn your work. So that's your first DC. DC into the second and DC into the third. Chain 1, skip that chain, DC into the first DC, second and third, and again chain 1, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 1, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 1. This is the last one. 1, 2, and a DC into that first chain 3 of the previous round. There you go. So 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1 again. Finish that row. Now, as you can see, you're just going to completely repeat this pattern until you've got to the size of your blanket, so the length. So you're going to keep repeating these rows over and over and over and over again. So you don't need a pattern. As long as you do groups of 4 chains at the beginning, as long as you want it, so this way, that will create this length of your blanket. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 with your starting chain all the way across, plus 1 for turning. Do the first row of 3 DCs, chain 1, skip 1, do your second row to copy that first row, your long stitch, copy the long stitch row. You keep going with this repetitive pattern all the way up. Nothing changes from here on in. You're just repeating, 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 repeating all the way. So you just keep going until your blanket is as long as you would like it to be. That's it, simple, that's the pattern. So it works up really quick too. So I'm just going to, okay, so cut out there. I think my camera only lets me do 25-minute recordings at once, so I don't know if I can change that. Anyway, let's keep going. So I'm going to keep going and I'm going to work at, well, I'm going to do my normal speed anyway, so just so you can keep seeing the pattern repeat. So chain 4, turn, that's your first DC plus chain 1, so skip this one, DC into the third, and long DC, pull, jiggle it up, pull it up, finish the DC, and 3. Always in groups of 3 with the DC, including the long DC. I just pull more yarn out so I'm not constantly pulling it. Alright. 3 DC, chain 1, skip 1, DC, long DC, DC, chain 1, skip 1, DC, long DC. See how this works out quick once you get into it? Chain 1, skip 1, DC, long DC, DC, chain 1, skip 1, DC, long DC, DC, chain 1, skip 1, DC into the top of the chain 3. Again, so what comes next? What comes next is the mirror image of the previous row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why 4? Because you're going to skip this one. So that last 4th chain is your chain 1. So DC chain 1, which equals a chain 4. Skip this, DC into the first DC. So there you go, see how that works? And that's where your long stitch is going to go for the next row. 1, 2, 3. Pull some more yarn out because that's how I got caught. Sorry, I've actually got my arm around the camera, which is making it a bit hard. Chain 1, I don't know if I said that already, probably. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, chain 1 right at the end. Leave 1 chain as your skipped chain and DC. Okay. Alright, so I think that's enough now to show you how to do this stitch. Now let's pretend you've come to the end of your blanket. So this is as long as you want your blanket to be. Okay, so you ready? It's all nice, beautiful. Okay, so now for your last row, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in these. And I'm going to go DC the whole way across. I like this way to finish. This is not how I think you're supposed to finish. I don't know actually how you're supposed to finish. This is just the way I do it. So I like it to be nice and neat. So what I'm going to do is 1, 2, 3, turn, long DC into the space. So this is your final row of your blanket. You're finished. You're at the end as long as it wants to be. DC into the next. Now normally you would chain 1, skip this one and DC into here and keep going, but I don't want to do that. I want to fill in these gaps so your last row is nice and solid. So I'm going to just continue to DC across. And then you end up with this nice finished row at the top. Now, of course, if you don't like that and you want it to be like the bottom, then you just finish on this row like normal. So 1 DC, long DC, 1 DC, chain 1, and do it like normal. There you go. So I would finish on a long DC row as well. That way it will look like the bottom and you're not going to have two gaps here. Okay, so if I was to do another row on top, you'd have two holes, whereas down the bottom you've only got one. So I don't know. You can stop this video now. This is just me talking about how I like things. So I think I'd do it like this. And then that's exactly the same as the bottom. Chain one. DC, chain one. C. DC. DC, and we're at the end, so pull that out. Long DC, and ta-da! There you go. I'd stop there. I wouldn't do your mirrored one at the top. Okay, so that's the end of your blanket. And like I said, you can go in and you can make these all nice and straight with your, I'm just untwisting it. That's the front, that's the back, or vice versa. It's exactly the same. To finish, you can go around and do your border, do a nice single crochet border all the way around, or whatever border you would like. And that's it. That's the Larksfoot or the bear claw. So I'll also be doing a video on my version of the Larksfoot, which is a little bit different. So you can probably see already what I've done. So it's the original we just did, and here's a different variation of it that I also have done. So I'll be doing that in another video. So that's it. Thank you. I hope you liked my first video. I hope it wasn't too confusing. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Sorry for my voice and my cold and my dog, and I'm glad the twins stayed asleep. Again, I'm using paint box yarns, Simply Chunky, and there's the details for it there. This is the bubblegum pink color 350, which I think is called bubblegum pink. It's an acrylic yarn, and I'm using my Clover 4mm hook, but the yarn does recommend a 6mm hook, and I would use that for this. You can use whatever yarn, whatever fiber, whatever ply, and use the corresponding hook for this however you'd like. I will put links for the yarn in this video, and come follow me on Instagram at littlecosythings, cozy with an S, littlecosythings, and you'll see my other projects there, and I'll put more details of this up on the blog. And I'm hoping to do more crochet tutorials if you like this. I really enjoyed doing it. Okay, thank you. Bye.